Hi guys and welcome back to Football Fix. Today I'm going to be doing some predictions for the Gameweek 5 Premier League season. So, to start with, we got Crystal Palace Brentford. It's a tight one for me this, because both sides are very solid defensively and both of them like to create a lot of chances and they score so many goals. As we've seen, Brentford have scored 9 goals so far this season, just in the first 4. It's at Selhurst Park. I don't really think that makes too much of a difference, but it might give Palace a little bit of an edge. For me, I think it's going to be 2-2. There's not, as I said before, there's not much to separate the sides. They're both really good going forward. One thing that I'm still not sure about, you might be watching this, when this video goes out, you might know more about this than I do as I'm filming it. But Wilfried Zaha is currently a doubt for the game, and I think if he's injured, I do think Brentford will win it. But what I heard last weekend, upon their game against City, it was actually, City when they played City. He was a doubt, but it just seemed like it was a little knock or something. It was just a precaution really to make sure it didn't get worse. So yeah, I think 2-2 is a fair result. Brentford have been not as solid defensively as I thought they'd be. They've conceded a fair few goals this season. I mean, what was it? It was 3-2 they lost against Fulham. I mean, I know Fulham are good going forward, but I didn't think they'd concede 3, considering Thomas Frank, he seems to have he's got a determined bunch of players, and the way they play, it's not defensive football by no means, but when they do defend, it's almost like 5 at the back. So I did think that they might do better defensively in that game, but anyway, I've gone 2-2, Crystal Palace Brentford. That's the first game. Right, so moving on to the next game, we've got Fulham Brighton. It's another game where I don't think there's much to separate the two sides, because Fulham, they've surprised a lot of people, I think, with the way they've started the season and just in general the type of football they've been playing. I mean, their attacking style of football, they've played it before, but then they've been exposed massively at the back and they've conceded loads of goals, so it didn't matter, so they'd end up losing the games anyway. But the addition of Andreas Pereira, I think the flair he's added to their attack, linking everything together, was exactly what they were needing, because Tom Kearney is a good player for them, but he's never been that player who will change a game much, especially since they've been dropping in and out of the Premier League. But Mitrovic seems to have found his form as well. He scored a fair few goals already, which is really promising for Fulham, because their main issue, usually when they come up, is that they can't get Mitrovic to perform. Because if you don't have your main striker performing as a newly promoted side, you're not gonna stay up. That's just how it is, and I think that's what's going to really happen with Bournemouth as well. So moving on to Brighton, they've also had a brilliant start to the season. They're currently third at the time of recording. They're third in the Premier League, and I mean they've just been brilliant. Unbeaten start to the season. They've only conceded 1 goal in the first 4 games, which is brilliant. I mean, and that 1 goal was an own goal from McAllister against Man United. So they've literally not conceded a goal that's been made by the other team. It was a silly own goal, really. That was the only goal they conceded. So part of me did think they might just run away with this game and win it maybe 2-0, 3-0. But Fulham at home, the attacking prowess they've shown so far, I've gone 2-1 to Brighton, because I think their attacking prowess as well, with Gross, who's had a really good start to the season. He's got 4 goal contributions in his first 4, which is a brilliant start. I mentioned him in a video a few videos ago, but he's finding that form that he had in the 2017-18 season, and it's really promising for Brighton, because he's exactly what they needed, considering they'd not had a striker who'll score them lots of goals each season. They do need to be finding the goals from the midfield as well. So I think 2-1 to Brighton. I think it's a fair result as well. I think it's quite a reasonable result. I'm not really cutting against the grain too much there. But yeah, I've gone 2-1 to Brighton for that game. Right then, so moving on, we've got Southampton-Chelsea. This is also one of the games on Tuesday night. That's why you'll be seeing this, as you know, this has been posted on the Monday. Usually we'll be posting Wednesday and Sunday, but here and there, if there's some games that change, like we have games midweek instead of the usual weekend games, then we'll start changing when we upload, just so you can see that, for example, you can see this video before the games happen, rather than, because it'd be a bit strange having a predictions video straight after the games. Doesn't really make sense. Right, so anyway, Southampton-Chelsea. Sorry for a little waffle there, but Southampton-Chelsea's the next one. Southampton have surprised me, actually, just to start with. Southampton have surprised me because they were, as you've seen in the predictions video that myself and Thomas did a few videos ago, I had them going down. I thought they might come 18th in the league this season. I thought they were getting relegated just off the back of signing a lot of inexperienced players, and I didn't think that they had a striker that would get them enough goals to be able to stay up. But Che Adams have proved me wrong. He's really proved me wrong so far. I mean, the main game I think of were those 2 goals against Leicester, especially that scissor kick that he scored. Oh, what a goal that was. I think he's going to be the main reason they stay up as well. And I think Bazunu and Lavia, both from City, I didn't really see, as a City fan, I didn't really see much of either of them when they were at City. Bazunu went on loan to Portsmouth, and Lavia was just really in the academies most of the time. But despite them losing against United the other day, I thought Lavia played really well. I mean, it reminded me of like Kante when he was first coming through. I'm not saying he's going to be the same quality at the end of his career, but the way he harried down the players in midfield, in United's midfield, I thought he was brilliant. And right, let's move on to Chelsea. Chelsea, they've been such a strange team so far because they've had 2 red cards already this season, which is bonkers as it is, with Koulibaly getting sent off for 2 silly yellow cards, as well as Gallagher the other day against Leicester getting sent off. But they've showed some. They've had that game against Spurs. I thought they were really good. They definitely deserved to win that game. The refereeing decisions really were unfair towards them in that game. But then they followed that by getting absolutely battered by Leeds. So they're a really difficult team to read, I think, especially considering that their defence is really poor now. That surprised me a lot because last season they were one of the best defences in the league. So for them to just all of a sudden just go from here to here, it's so hard to predict how they're going to perform this season. But I've gone 1-1 in this game. It's a little bit of a shock prediction from me there because I think most people will be expecting Chelsea to win because they are the favourites to win it at the end of the day. But I think at St Mary's, it's obviously not Fortress, but I think Chelsea are going to struggle. I do think they'll struggle because their midfield, they're lacking a lot of depth there. Consider Gallagher's come in. I think he is a good player, but I'm not sure he's quite up to Chelsea standard yet. But he's come in. Then he's got a suspension now to serve after his red card. Kante's injured, and Jorginho can't run that midfield on his own, as well as Kovacic being injured. I think Ward-Prowse might have a field day in this game, to be honest, considering they're lacking just presence in midfield at the moment. And especially considering some of the defensive errors they've been making. I mean, against Leeds especially, I'm going to highlight this game again. But Mendy he's been really poor. I mean, how easily Aronson dispossessed him in that game for his goal. It was literally the easiest goal you'll ever see. It was good press, but Mendy should never be letting him have that. As well as just some of the general marking in the box. I mean, Leeds ran riot over them in that game. It was at Ellen Road, so they did have a bit of an advantage there. But yeah, I think 1-0's a fair result for this game in my eyes anyway. So we'll move on to the next game. The next game we've got is Leeds against Everton. That's it. Yeah. So I've just mentioned Leeds a little bit with how good they've been so far. I think the attacking football Jesse Marsch has got them playing is brilliant, and the signings of Rocker and Tyler Adams in midfield, they've just really solidified the team in general, to be honest, and stopped them conceding as many goals because they had Calvin Phillips last season, and when he was missing, it was so obvious that they lacked someone there to be able to fill in when he wasn't there. And now he's gone. They've replaced him with not only one good defensive midfielder, but 2. And I think that's exactly what they've needed to allow them to go and attack in numbers and still not have to worry too much about, in transition, them conceding lots of goals. So against Everton, I think they will do well, as you'd probably think, considering Everton have had a poor start to the season. I've got a bit of bias towards Everton, but because I like them, to be honest. I like Frank Lampard, and I do think he is the right man for the job. But they need to sign that striker. I've said it. I'll say it now, and I've said it many times again, as Thomas has, as lots of people have in the media over the past few weeks and months since Richarlison's left, and then Calvert-Lewin being their only recognised striker. They need someone up there to score them loads of goals, because scoring goals is a big problem for them at the moment. I mean, Gordon scored a nice goal the other day against Brentford, but in that game, I think that if they had a really good striker there, they would have been able to finish that game off instead of hanging on and then conceding in the second half, because Everton aren't a side that should be near the relegation zone each season. They, in my eyes, since I've been watching football, they should be in the top, near the top half, if not pushing for Europe each season, but they really have dropped off. And I don't really know how to label it, to be honest, but the striker is the main thing they need to improve on. So it's at Ellen Road. Leeds they've won both of their first two games at Ellen Road this season, with win against Wolves on the opening day and a convincing win, as I mentioned, against Chelsea. And that will be a massive factor, because away from home, they've not won a game away from home so far. I mean, they drew against Southampton and they lost against Brighton the other day. That was it, yeah. Who are a good side, don't get me wrong, but being at home will definitely help them. So I've gone with 2-1 to Leeds for this one. I think it will be quite a close game, to be honest. And I do think Everton will score, because while they've got their extra cover in midfield, I think their defence is still a little bit weak, Leeds. So I do think they'll concede. But with 10 goal contributions across Harrison, Aronson and Rodrigo off the first 4 games, I can't see Everton outscoring them in this game. I think it will be a game of who scores more goals, rather than one team scoring and then holding off for the whole game. Because I don't think either team is strong enough to hold off, just based on how good they are defensively. So I think Leeds, they will score a couple goals in this game. And to be honest, I think they could score more than that. It could be 3-1, 4-1. But yeah, 2-1 Leeds. I think that's a reasonable prediction. And yeah, we'll see what happens. Right then, moving on to the next game, we've got Arsenal, Aston Villa. And it's at the Emirates. And Villa, they've really struggled so far. They've only got 1 win so far off the first 4, is it? Yeah, first 4. Gerrard just doesn't seem the man for me. He's not the man for the job. He's had so much money to spend, and just the way they're playing, it was never a good start to the season when they were losing 2-0 against Bournemouth. I mean, look how Bournemouth have done so far after that game. They've not got a win since then and conceded 16 goals. I mean, you'd be hoping they could score at least 1 there. They don't really show any attacking intent. They're not the most exciting team to watch. I don't think they're going to score any goals in this game, especially away from home. And on the other hand, on the flip side, Arsenal, they've been brilliant. Thomas isn't here, but he can vouch for how good they've been over the first 4 games. 4 wins from 4, obviously, unbeaten. It's a great start for them, considering how poorly they started last season with no wins from the first 3. It's really good. I mean, that outlet they've now got with Jesus up front. He's almost enabled the other players that were already in the side, with Ødegaard getting more involved now, because he didn't get too much in terms of attacking output last season. He was kind of a player that was working behind the scenes, really, not really scoring many or assisting many. He was almost a pre-assister for everything, but now he's getting involved, scored a couple goals the other day. Yeah, it's looking like Arsenal are going to win this easily for me. So I've gone with a 3-0 win to Arsenal. Should be an easy result for them. And yeah, onwards and upwards for Arsenal. I mean, 5 wins off 5. That's an unbelievable start. And despite Thomas made a video the other day, as I'm sure you'll have seen, about Arsenal's hopes and aspirations for the season. And while I don't think they can win the league, surely they've got to get top 4 now. I didn't actually predict them top 4, which is, in hindsight, a poor prediction, but they've surely got to get top 4 now with how well they've started the season and how well I think they'll continue to play, considering they don't really have the toughest of fixtures for the next 3 or 4 games. Right then, so moving on to the next game, got Bournemouth versus Wolves. It's a frustrating watch, to be honest, for Wolves, because they're so good defensively, and they've got a really solid midfield now, bringing in Matheus Nunes as well. Neves scored an absolute screamer today as well, by the way, I'm sure you'll have seen. But they still lack that attacking prowess. Jimenez scored today, but it was ruled out. But he needs to really get back in the goals, because that's what's stopping them from getting in Europe, to be honest, for me. So I've gone, despite that, I have gone 1-0 Wolves. It's at the Vitality Stadium, but I think they'll still have enough to beat Bournemouth. They're really going to be lacking in motivation after being humiliated by Liverpool like that. 9-0. It's unbelievable how easy it was. I was looking at my phone as the game was happening, and it was like it was going mental. There were goals flying in, 2 goals after 6 minutes it was. And it could have been, genuinely, it could have been 10 or 12 goals they conceded in that game had Salah not scored, which I'm sure, as I was, many people were frustrated with, considering for fantasy Premier League purposes. But yeah, I think Wolves will just have enough this game, and I just can't see Bournemouth staying up. I didn't think they'd stay up, as many people didn't at the start of the season. But yeah, it's just it's really looking bad for them for the season, to be honest. Right then, moving on, we've got Man City against Forest. My team, City, obviously. Played really well, I thought, in the second half, especially against Crystal Palace the other day. The thing I'm worried about City at the moment is defensively looking really poor in comparison to what we have been in previous seasons. We've conceded 5 in the opening four games, which, on paper, it's not bad. But we've not faced the most difficult sides, and conceding 3 against Newcastle and then 2 against Crystal Palace, it's a bit worrying for me, that. Because while the goals came from nothing really, it was an own goal from Stones and came from a corner, I think just that casual switching off that keeps happening in the defence is going to be really worrying for the season to come. So I think, as a City fan, I'm really looking forward to when Laporte comes back, because while he doesn't stand out massively for me when he's playing, you really notice his absence when he's injured. And Haaland, he's going to be the difference for City this season, I think. Because over the past season, not just last season, going 2-0 down that early, City, you'd almost see us not roll over, but we wouldn't get back in the game. It would be, we just continue the same style of slow football, not passing it quick enough, not engaging ourselves not getting ourselves in the game really. But now we've got that outlet in Haaland. None of his goals were incredible, to be honest, but just having him there is massive. Because, for example, he scored a header where I don't think last season anyone would have been in that position for City, because we didn't have a recognised number 9. He scored a goal from a corner, I think it was, a tap-in. It was an easy goal, but as they always say, you've got to be there to score it. And then his third goal was just a great example of what he can do. That pacing behind, Gundogan's on fire as well. That partnership of Gundogan and Haaland seems to be one that you need to look out for really for this season, because I think Gundogan will definitely get on the score sheet as well against Forest. Because I think what they always do is teams go into the Etihad, they always worry about the front three and make sure we stay nice and compact and we drop nice and deep to stop them being able to get in behind. But what sometimes teams forget, this is when City do usually absolutely annihilate a team at the Etihad, is they forget about those runs in behind the defence from the midfield, because they're so worried about watching Haaland, for example, Mahrez, Foden, with their pace in behind. They forget about the bombarding runs almost in behind from Gundogan. So I think he'll get on the score sheet, definitely. And I've gone with a 3-1 win to City, because I think Forest have still got enough potential up front to be able to score with Brennan Johnson. I think he's a great talent. He is not really hit the ground running. He scored 1 so far against Everton. But yeah, I think they'll definitely have enough to score. But City, with Haaland up front, I think Alvarez might get involved as well in this game, considering Haaland might need to be rested, considering how many games we've got coming up. But yeah, I think Forest have surprised a lot of people. I had them to I had them to stay up actually, didn't I? Yeah. I had them to stay up, but I didn't think they'd be this good, because just on paper, their team, obviously they've made ridiculous amount of signings. Even with all these signings, they've still managed to gel really well as the season started, and they're just strengthening with players that you wouldn't even expect. They've been linked with Renan Lodi, seems like he's going from Atletico. He's playing in the Champions League last season, and Alwar as well has been linked. They've just made some really good signings so far as well. So I think they'll definitely have enough to stay up this season, and I think they'll do all right in this game, but City will overpower them. Bit of bias from me there, but yeah, I think 3-1 City at the Etihad. It's about right, to be honest. Right then, moving on to the next game, we've got West Ham against Spurs at London Stadium. This one, it's a tough one to predict for me, this one, because West Ham, they've started poorly. They've only got 1 win so far, which is really unlike them, just based off how they've done over the past few seasons, finishing in Europe, getting to the latter stages of European competitions. I didn't think they'd start this poorly. And then the Spurs as well, who they've really struggled to unlock their attacking potential this season so far. With Kane and Son not really getting involved. Son hasn't scored so far this season, which is really a shock, considering he was a joint Golden Boot winner last season. So, when I was looking at this, I was thinking, either way, it's going to be a really tight game. And because it's at the London Stadium, I do think West Ham will score. So they'll definitely get a goal in this one, I think. I think Skamaka might get involved, might score in this game as well. And then Spurs, I think while they've struggled to, I think this might be the game where they have that breakthrough. A London derby, they've got to be up for it, surely. So I think Spurs will be up for it. They'll get their attack firing. I think Kane and Son will definitely be involved. And I've gone 2-1 to Spurs for this game. I think it's about time that Spurs hit the ground running, really, because I think against Southampton, their result didn't really reflect their performance. Despite it being 4-1, they deserved to win, but I think it was never a 4-1 game, especially considering they conceded first. And then the Chelsea game as well, that's one that stands out to me. They didn't play well at all. That was a game where they really struggled to get the ball in behind to the three brilliant forwards that they have. And they got lucky, to be honest, for me, with some of the decisions that happened with just potential offsides, potential fouls in the build-up to goals. But I think, this will be the game where they hit the ground running, 2-1 to Spurs. Yeah, I think this will be a good game for them. Right then, moving on. We've got Liverpool against Newcastle. This is a really tough one to predict again for me. I think this week has got some of the best fixtures we've had so far in terms of how tight it's going to be. Especially considering some of the sides that were previously mid-table sides, or even Newcastle, who in the past have been near the bottom of the league. They've really hit the ground running this season. I think that Liverpool-Newcastle will be a close game. So I'll just get my score done first. I think it's going to be 3-2 to Liverpool. I think it'll definitely be a high-scoring game. Newcastle, free scoring at the moment. Sure, didn't do too well against Wolves. 1-1 draw. It's a bit underwhelming, but I think it's Alexander Isak, new signing for them. 60 or 70 million, I think it was. With Liverpool's lack of solid defensive partner for Van Dijk, I think he might thrive in this game. With his height, 6'4", I think he is 6'3", he's really going to thrive in this game against a struggling Liverpool defence as well. They've only kept one clean sheet so far this season, which is really a worry for them. But I think Liverpool at Anfield, they'll have enough to win. I think it'll end up being a case of Liverpool going 2-0 up, and then Newcastle. I don't think Newcastle will ever be ahead in this game, put it that way. But I think it'll definitely be a close game. So 3-2 Liverpool. I think it's about right. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that Salah gets on the score sheet, because very much need that fancy Premier League. Right then, we'll move straight on to the last game of the game week. The first of many Thursday evening games for United this season, as they are in the Europa League this season. And they go to the King Power for an away game against Leicester. And both sides, just looking at the start of the season altogether, they've not started very well. Leicester, like Villa, I think Brendan Rodgers is not going to stay as the manager for them for much longer. I think Rodgers and Gerrard are definitely under threat of being sacked soon. And United, this game, they've won 2 in a row now against Liverpool, then Southampton. I think this will be where they push on now. So I think they will win this game. And Leicester, I think they've got a good attack. They've still got enough presence up front with Barnes. Maddison, I'm not sure if he'll be fit, but even if he isn't, they've still got Vardy, and they've got a few other players up there who will definitely have enough to score a goal at least in this game. So I've gone 2-1 to United away from home. And yeah, it'll be a great stepping stone for them to push on, really. And I think they're definitely going to have to sign a striker before the end of the window as well. Who it would be, I'm not sure, because there's been a lot of sources linking them back with Depay, which I think would be quite an interesting one, actually, because he's improved a lot since his last spell at United. And obviously Ronaldo's been linked with Sporting, which was one I've been thinking for a while, considering the top clubs haven't been really wanting to sign him since he's been linked away from United. I thought Sporting would be the perfect one for him. The only issue is the wages, but there's even been talks of him being made part, almost like he's got a share in the club. It's a bit ridiculous that it's got to that stage, but if they get rid of Ronaldo and bring in another striker, I think United could shock people this season. I think they'll definitely get in Europe this season, that's for sure, in my opinion. Right then, that's it for the predictions for this weekend. Hope you really enjoyed the video. And don't forget to drop any of your predictions down in the comments down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And see you later. Bye.